Good morning. It is Thursday, March 27th. Welcome to the Inside Edge. So, yesterday I talked for a little while about how I'm thinking about forecasting elections that are still a ways in the future. And one concept that I think is helpful for that is the idea of partisan lean. This is something that many of you watching probably have heard of or know something about already. It was pioneered or at least popularized by the Cook Political Report. And basically, what it does is it tells you how a district or a county, a state, a municipality, whatever, voted relative to an overall popular vote, be it the national popular vote, a state popular vote, whatever. And the reason why that's helpful is it gives you context for what a district is like in a vacuum, regardless of the individual, perhaps unusual circumstances of a single election. So, for example, in the 2013 governor's race, Chris Christie won New Jersey by 22 points. That is obviously an anomalous result in New Jersey, which is usually at least a little bit Democratic leaning. So let's say you have a legislative district that voted for Christie by 10 points. In a vacuum, that seems like that's a lot. Wow, a Republican wins this district by 10 points. But if you give it the partisan lean treatment, then that means that is a D plus 12 district relative to the state. Suddenly, that seems a lot less impressive. Suddenly, you're thinking, wait a minute, this voted Republican because of the specific, very unusual circumstances of this election. But this probably isn't a Republican leaning district. That's not really what this district usually does. This is D plus 12 relative to the state. It's just Chris Christie did so well that it kind of erased that seawall. And so looking ahead to 2026, the two districts that I'm always talking about, the 7th district, Tom Kean Jr., and the 9th district, Nellie Poe, I think that the partisan lean concept is really important for their two districts because both of them voted for Donald Trump, having voted for Joe Biden in 2020. So that obviously makes people think, well, they're Republican leaning, and they are to a certain extent. But they also, importantly, both voted slightly less Republican than the nation overall. They were like Trump plus 1.2, 1.3 around there. The nation was Trump plus 1.5. So if you're just going purely on partisan lean from the 2024 presidential election, that means that the 7th and 9th district are more Democratic than the nation as a whole. If you had a tied popular vote and everything else was equal, you would expect the two of them to go very narrowly for Democrats. That's really notable in the 7th district in particular, because even though it was a Biden district, it was actually more Republican than the nation as a whole in 2020. And it's been more Republican than the country overall for going back a really long time. This is possibly the first time ever that this particular combination of towns that currently makes up the 7th district has voted bluer than the country overall. So when we're looking ahead to 2026, like I was talking about a lot yesterday, we don't really know what the future environment holds. We can make some educated guesses. And one of those educated guesses is that the party out of power in a midterm usually gains some ground and usually wins the national popular vote. If we take that assumption and run with it, maybe he's going to be wrong, then that means that the 7th and 9th districts are looking kind of favorable for Democrats. They are already a little bit bluer than the nation overall based on the 2024 results. And if Democrats are winning the popular vote by 2 points or 5 points or 8 points or whatever have you in 2026, then that's going to start to get difficult for Republicans to keep up with that. And now Republicans, especially in the 7th district, are going to say, well, hold on, Tom Kean Jr. is a strong incumbent. He won by 5 points in more than 5 points in 2024 as Republicans were winning the House popular vote by less. So he actually has some cushion there, and he absolutely does. This is not a concept that can just wipe away any other information that you have about a district. Incumbency is still important. Spending is still important. All these things are still important. But when we don't know a lot of the unknowns that I was talking about yesterday, the partisan lean is a really good tool to use to just give us, okay, if we know nothing else about this district, here is how it might vote. And if you do that to New Jersey's two competitive districts, then you get two of the closest districts in the entire country, and you get what is potentially going to be a very interesting set of races in 2026. So that's what I've got for you today. You'll be released from my clutches back into David Wildstein soon,